136 days. If you had an office pool and that was the number you had, you hit the number right on the head, as President Trump and Elon Musk are now hitting back at each other over the president's big, beautiful bill and a whole lot more.
He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden, he had a problem, and he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate.
How Elon Musk responded in his attempt to kill the bill and how all of this escalated throughout the day. Plus, Trump's new actions, admissions at Harvard, a travel ban across parts of the globe, an investigation into President Biden. Is the president trying to reshape the narrative? And by the way, as all of this was going on, there was a pretty big call with China. President Trump speaking today with Xi Jinping. Could this lead to some sort of a deal? Kevin O'Leary is with us here tonight. Also this evening, the drone dilemma. Did Ukraine's surprise attack on Russia open up a big question here at home? One of the president's former defense secretaries joins us live. But only one place to start tonight. First here from the Hill. It got personal and political pretty fast.
I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for being with us tonight here on the Hill. I'm Blake Burman. President Trump suggesting today that ditching Musk's federal contracts could be one of the next things to come. Musk says Trump wouldn't be in the Oval without him. Senator Roger Marshall and Congressman Andy Ogles, who, by the way, received a retweet from Musk today, join me in a moment. But first, out to our Kelly Meyer live at the White House on the North Lawn with how all of this escalated today. You had to keep the phone in hand nonstop there, Meyer.
Oh, man, and still am, I mean, we're bracing for what's to come in the next few minutes, few hours, overnight, between X and Truth Social. It wasn't even 1 week ago, Blake, that President Trump was giving Elon Musk that gold key to the White House. Remember that? Now they may be changing the locks. That honeymoon ended in a blow-up today, and it's still going, as we were saying. Up until now, we haven't heard President Trump speak really badly about Musk, even when Musk started criticizing that big, beautiful bill last week. And today, that changed. Take a listen to this.
Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if it will anymore. I was surprised because you were here. Everybody in this room practically was here as we had a wonderful send-off. He said wonderful things about me.
So during that Oval Office meeting, Elon was responding in real time, saying whatever, calling the bill big and ugly. Then it got uglier. Musk was saying that President Trump wouldn't be president without him. And then it got even uglier. He was claiming that Trump is in the Epstein files. President Trump, though, he didn't stay silent for long. He went on Truth Social saying he was threatening to cancel Musk's government contracts. And for lawmakers, it's now becoming a question of whose side are you on, Musk or Trump's? And for supporters of President Trump, like Steve Bannon, he's calling for investigations into Musk and even if he should be deported. Blake.
And away we go. We'll see where it heads. Kelly Meyer live tonight over at the White House. Kelly, so where do Republicans stand? As Kelly got to it there, is there now a Team Trump, a Team Musk? The big, beautiful bill started this fury, and now it's in the hands of the Senate. Roger Marshall, a Republican senator from Kansas, member of the Budget Committee, joins us live once again here on the Hill. Senator, good on you to be with us tonight, as I know you're getting a lot of questions of what in the world just happened today. The bill is in your hands right now, so let me start there. Did Elon Musk just kill the bill?
Absolutely not. Look, this is a little speed bump. It's a little side circus show. We are absolutely locked in on passing the one big, beautiful bill. This will be the largest, we'll prevent the largest tax increase in American history. We're going to kick illegal aliens off of Medicaid. So there's so many great things in this bill that we have to get it through. And I'm excited just to keep going forward.
How do you call it a little speed bump when you have the most powerful person on the planet and the wealthiest person on the planet talking about canceling contracts, the Epstein files, stopping part of the space program, and more?
Yeah, no, I think that's what we have to do up here. We have to ignore all the sideshows. It's that way most every day up here. There's a sideshow going on. We have to stay focused. Look, 80 million people voted for President Trump. He's the president of the United States. Appreciate what Elon did. He only got $175 billion of cuts. We were hoping for a little bit more than that, but we appreciate his service. Time to move on. Time for all the senators to stay locked in on this bill, and we truly, truly are.
You are up for re-election, and you talk about Musk. Musk basically said today in one of his posts, you know what? There is no President Trump without me. He suggested that he got him re-elected. And I wonder, Senator, as Musk now goes down this path of saying, you know what? If you don't cut enough, and suggesting if that doesn't happen, I'm coming after the folks. You should vote them all out of office. Do you sit back and take notice of that? Do you worry about maybe Elon Musk sort of saying, you know what, Roger Marshall, for example, isn't doing enough?
Elon who? No, absolutely not. Look, I'm going to do what's best for the American people, for Kansas. I was sent here to do a job, and what I agree with Elon, though, about is that our national debt's the #1 problem that we face. And the House maybe cut 1.6, 1.7 trillion of spending. Look, we need to get another 500 billion across there as well. Let's get that up over 2 trillion. But look, just in all frankness here, there's a big difference between being a CEO of a business and working with Congress. What President Trump has to work with is 435 board members on the House side, 100 over here on the Senate side, and we all have to agree enough to pass this bill. Look, 90% of this bill, I love it, but 10% I need to work on it yet.
So you said that you're focused on this, and I take you at your word. You want to pass it by July 4th. You going to get that done?
No, I think so. I think that failure is not an option. We're much closer than people are giving us credit for. Again, to have 90% of the work done is incredible. Nobody's going to get everything they want. And I think President Trump made that so clear yesterday. But what President Trump's main message to me anyway is the economy is really, really growing right now. And the CBO has way underestimated what this bill is going to do for America. The CBO is predicting a 1.8% growth. I think we're going to see 3 and 4% growth.
All right, Senator Roger Marshall, Republican Kansas, with us tonight here on the Hill. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So all of this happened today, as it all happened. One of the immediate consequences could be seen in Tesla stock. It dropped throughout the day, ending up at down 14% by the time the closing bell rang. Would you look at that? That basically equates to roughly $120 billion in market cap wiped. Today alone, gone, just like that. Now, the electric vehicle tax credit came to the forefront today in all of this. As the president said, he thinks that's why Elon's sort of pushing back. So we wanted to show you tonight what that could have meant for years to come. Now, last year, the Treasury Department in the Biden administration estimated that government spending on these credits would go up. Look at this. Over the next 8 or 9 years or so. $4 billion in EV credits now, but really hitting all the way up potentially. And no one really knows, right? Because you don't know how many cars will be bought in the future. But maybe hitting up to $25 billion at one point. Musk, though, says this didn't have anything to do with the beef that he has with the bill, instead of what he views as excessive spending. And that was just part of the backdrop today. As Musk was tweeting away, one of the folks that he was talking about, or retweeted at least, was the congressman from Tennessee, Republican Andy Ogles, who is with us tonight here on the Hill as all of this plays out. Thank you, sir, for being here. You've had quite the day. You've said the bill is big. You've said it's beautiful. You've also said it's not done. And that's why you got the retweet today from Elon Musk and the American flag. It sounded like Senator Marshall there was Team Trump. Do you think there's a division here between Team Trump, Team Musk, and are you on Team Musk?
Well, no, let's be clear. This isn't about choosing sides. This is two individuals who have a big, beautiful brawl, let's call it that, right? But members of Congress, we're focused on the big, beautiful bill. Now, I would say the bill is big. It's not quite beautiful yet. And that's why we're kicking it over to the Senate. That's part of the process. And I think there's the real opportunity in my conversations with the White House, with the senators as well, that they'll make some additional cuts, making it better. And then, so their self-imposed deadline is July 4th.
Right.
We'll vote on it thereafter, and then we truly will have a big, beautiful bill.
So how do you square what President Trump is basically saying, which is this is it. This is the thing. This is the vehicle. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You're saying, no, we need change.
I'm expecting some change.
I guess.
Yeah, I'm expecting change. Look, so what you have is the president's priorities, and I agree with, is making the tax cuts permanent. When you make the Trump tax cuts permanent, that's signaling to the markets, this is the landscape. So if you want to invest, if you want to invest in your business, this is where you're operating, how you're operating. If you're a company looking to come into the United States, all of these things are important. More money for the border and deportations. Obviously, Nashville has been in the news for deportations. And so those are two critical parts, the new tax on tips, no tax on overtime. In addition, I do think there's more when you look at the waste, the fraud, and the abuse, there's still more opportunity. And look, we're going to pass whatever comes back from the Senate.
Okay.
As long as it maintains the integrity of what we've done, it'll pass.
On the EV credits, which was sort of what kicked this off today, at least from Trump's perspective. In your state, I was reading 20,000 people employed by basically the EV market, $16 billion in capital since 2017. So how do you square cutting all that in that graph that I just showed up there on the screen with jobs in your community, basically?
Yeah, so when you look at most of those manufacturing plants, they're actually dual purpose. So they are partially in the EV space, but they're also in the manufacturing, whether it be a vehicle or an engine. And so the manufacturing within Tennessee is quite flexible.
So no worry about killing jobs?
I'm not worried about jobs. I mean, I think the demand, if the demand isn't in the EV market, it'll be on gas and the diesel side of the equation.
Okay.
So either way, Tennessee will be great. We're a huge manufacturing sector, supply chain for the automotive industry. So either way, we're good. But that being said, let the market decide as we go forward. Obviously, there's been some subsidies for EVs.
Right.
I'm a gas and diesel guy.
Okay.
I like the smell of fossil fuels.
Okay.
I'll be the last guy in Tennessee that owns one. But hey, if you want one, go get it. But that being said, at the end of the day, we need to be focused on the big, beautiful bill, not the big, beautiful brawl.
Last time I believe we had you on the show, you've been probably the biggest, or at least out front, talking about the Epstein case and transparency. You even have an act, I believe, called the Pedo Act, right?
That's right.
Elon went there today, Congressman. Here's what he said. He said, time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. This is Elon. Have a nice day, DJT. You think it was right for Elon to go there?
No. And quite frankly, if knowing Epstein is a crime, half of this town would be in prison. Let's be honest. And so I think it's nonsense. I think this feud needs to be taken offline. This escalated quickly. I mean, 1 minute we're talking about the bill. I had reached out to Elon on a separate note, and then next thing you know, I'm reading back and forth on X, on Twitter, of what's going on. And so obviously, it's unfortunate. Right. But I mean, we have so much. Look, the city of Nashville. You've got these woke activist mayors interfering with ICE. We need the target's 3,000 deportations a day. We need to be hitting 10,000 a day. We need to make sure our law enforcement's safe. We've got to continue to secure the border. You've got China. During the Cold War, we weren't giving visas to Russians who were spying on us. Why are we doing this with China? And so again, this call with this meeting with Xi is important. But at the same token, we've got to recognize China's the enemy, and I don't think we should treat them as an ally. So there's a lot to unpack with what we have on our plate. Okay. And so this back and forth between Trump and Elon, look, I'm a big supporter of President Trump. I've endorsed him. He's endorsed me. And what I would say to the president, let's keep working. Let's get this done. And I'll continue to reach out to Elon and say, please stop.
Yeah. Okay. You're going to tell him that?
No mas.
You're going to tell him? You'll text him? Are you going to text him?
I will text him right after the show. No mas.
All right. I'm not encouraging you to. I'm just curious. Congressman Andy Ogles. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. All right. Silicon tonight here on the Hill. How about this for a turnabout? The congressman was just talking about it, right? This normally would have been the biggest story of the day, Trump and Xi speaking. What does Kevin O'Leary have to think about it? Kevin O'Leary here on the other side of the break. Hello, sir. By the way, Kevin always tells us focus on the signal and not the noise, right, Kevin? So what is the signal in all of this? I'm going to ask Kevin. Plus, could it happen and are we ready? One of the president's former defense secretaries live on the show tonight. This idea about drones and a foreign adversary within our own borders. Christopher Miller here on the Hill. And as the Musk feud broke out, the president announced a flurry of news last night, including More penalties for Harvard, an investigation into Biden. The news coming in the middle of a pretty tough cycle. So what's he trying to do here? Welcome to the Hill here on NewsNation. That's just some of what's going on. We'll see you back here in 4 minutes.
We had a very good talk, and we've straightened out any complexity. It's very complex stuff, and we straightened it out. But no, I think we have everything. I think we're in very good shape with China and the trade deal.
On any other day, this probably would have been the lead story. But who would have thought that President Trump actually might be in better shape with President Xi than he is with Elon Musk heading into today? That was the president previewing where things stand in the U.S.-China trade negotiations after he spoke with Xi Jinping, the president says, for about an hour and a half today to try to figure out where to go from here. This after both sides accused each other of going back on the temporary deal or arrangement that was reached in Geneva last month. So what to take away from all of this? With President Trump, many will tell you it's more important to watch the actions than the words. If I've learned one thing from Kevin O'Leary, chairman of O'Leary Ventures, Shark Tank fame, friend of the show. Kevin, you always say, watch the signal, not the noise, right? So on this Trump-Xi phone call, and hello, Kevin, thanks for being back with us here on the Hill. The thing that I picked up, I thought it was interesting they used the word trade deal in the statement. I thought they tried to get the algos to pick up on that. But what do you think the signal was today?
Well, I want to say something about, what happened with Elon. You've got to realize, even in Trump's first term, the inner circle of people that are close to him changes very rapidly. And the same things happen in the second term. I think Mike Waltz, for example, out of there, Elon gone now, at least for now. But as you say, it's all noise. It's kind of irrelevant to what matters in terms of the way we're moving forward, both on the economy and the markets and trade deals. So the fact that a phone call is made, a bit of a standoff reduction here. China's the most important trade deal of all of the other 17 countries. This is the big daddy. It's got to get worked out because it's not just trade, not just reciprocal tariffs. The IP law, access to markets, the World Trade Organization narrative about settling trade disputes, their access to the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, all of these issues have to get worked out in what's the beginning of a negotiation. We're in the first inning here. But the fact that, they've already agreed that they're going to visit, this is all good. The market's going to like it. And I think this is the one that you should focus the signal on when it comes to resolving trade disputes, because this is a behemoth dispute, and it's got a lot of other repercussions.
Do you actually think there was movement, though, today? Because, I mean, look, I was at the White House, covered this, Kevin, every single day in the first administration, and this was kind of the ebb and flow, right? Like a delegation would go over there, a delegation would come over here, there'd be phone calls and all that, and that's how it went for 20 months, basically. And as you say, this is the top of the first inning. So was any real progress made in your view today?
No progress other than a call and an agreement to visit. But let's remember something, and this is my own personal opinion. I've been watching the Chinese for 20 years. I have no problem with the Chinese people. I want to sell product there, and I've been doing business there for a long time. I don't trust the government at all. I don't trust what they say. The only thing that matters is what they do. Even if they pen a deal, as they did with the WTO in 2000, they don't even abide by the first week. They cheat, they steal, they rob, they lie, and they've built their economy off the back of European and American technology they've ripped off. I mean, these are facts. We're not debating anything new here. So the only way to make the Chinese understand anything, at least the government, is to give them consequences, very painful consequences. They understand the stick. That's what works. And so Trump has to negotiate like in a different way than other administrations have, because it hasn't worked. Nothing's worked, ever, ever. Yep. And so I'm tired of all that crap. I want real action here, and I want consequences built into this deal. You don't do this, here's how we squeeze your head till your eyeballs pop out. That's the kind of deal this has to be.
You care about companies, you care about bottom lines, you care about those companies doing well and succeeding. I think it's fair to say. I see you nodding along. Tesla, Kevin, we were talking about Elon Musk, obviously. It was down 14% today. I believe it was somewhere in the area of 120 billion in market cap. Gone. See ya. That's a 12 with 10 zeros next to it. Did Elon Musk do damage to Tesla and to shareholders today long term?
if you own Tesla, as I do, I'm a shareholder, we're used to volatility. The vol on this stock's insane, and it really is driven by a tweet or whatever. The real issue is what's the long-term opportunity in this company? If you believe in EV, if you believe in robotics, if you believe in all of the technology this company has in autonomous driving, you stay long the stock. I remind everybody when they talk to me about Tesla, the brand's destroyed, yada, 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 woof, woof, woof. Remember Tylenol? Remember that story? Everybody said there'll never be another bottle of Tylenol on shelves. It's 10 times bigger than that catastrophe. Brands recover. Elon's a unique individual. He's a bombastic person. You've seen this already today in this exchange with Trump. Those are two giant egos, and everybody understands what's going on there. It doesn't change the trajectory of what this company's going to be. And if you don't think electric cars worldwide are a factor, then don't own the stock. If you don't like robotics, don't own the stock. You don't like autonomous taxis, don't own the stock. It's your decision. Everybody can make their own decision. I'm staying long.
Let me leave you with this. Do you think the relationship ever recovers? Because there's a difference in politics of, we disagree on taxes or tariffs or whatever. But once you go to Jeffrey Epstein, Kevin, that gets personal, and I wonder if this ever comes back or they're done.
You know, it's going to come back. I mean,
you think so, really?
Trump, yeah, I'll tell you why. I mean, again, this is, watching Trump and meeting with him a few times. This guy's a transactional guy, pragmatic. I don't really shill for politicians. I shill for policy. I've said that countless times. I don't care, I don't care in a tweeting war. It's kind of irrelevant. But if you ask me, will these two men meet again and be friends? I would say yes. It's like a marriage. They had a little tiff. They had a bad date. Okay. And now they're going to call each other and say, sorry about that, honey. Let's work it out.
All right. We'll see. We'll leave it there. He is Kevin O'Leary. Always great to see you. We'll talk again soon.
Take care.
Appreciate the time. You too. All right. Still much more ahead here on the Hill. This video, this story, you know it right here. Ukraine and those drones that took out Russian planes. What about the idea of what drones can do elsewhere? One of the president's former Secretary of Defense ran the Pentagon for the president. Joins us live here on the Hill on the other side of the break about what he believes comes next in all of this.
At a cost of a mere tens of thousands of dollars, Ukraine inflicted billions in damage, and drones are but one example of a broader shift. The Army needs to keep pace.
Are we keeping pace? When the Hill returns. All right, thanks for being with us tonight here on the Hill, 6:30 here on the East Coast and in Washington. A major strike by Ukraine on Russia's nuclear-capable fleet opened up a series of questions this week, not only abroad, but also here at home. A new report in Axios claims that President Trump is worried that an attack could make a ceasefire more difficult, but they also say in that report that he, quote, admired the stealth drone attack. And this week as well, the Army Secretary, Daniel Driscoll, testifying up on Capitol Hill that our own military should take notice.
At a cost of a mere tens of thousands of dollars, Ukraine inflicted billions in damage, and drones are but one example of a broader shift. The Army needs to keep pace. In my first 3 months as Secretary, General George and I have been immersed in understanding why the Army has been slow to innovate.
Last month, the commander-in-chief rolled out his new initiative to build an Iron Dome to try to protect America's homeland in this new age of modern warfare. So are we ready for this new era involving drones? Christopher Miller would know. He knows the commander-in-chief as well. He was the last defense secretary in President Trump's first term. He's also a key leader at Design Technologies, which is on the forefront of autonomous defense solutions. Chris, always nice to see you, Mr. Secretary. I wanted to speak to you on this because this has been a big story. You know the Pentagon inside and out. You know drones inside and out. And you said in a podcast earlier this year, and thank you for being here, of course, that Ukraine was innovating every couple weeks on this front. And I wonder what you mean by that, and if at home we're doing the same.
Blake, great seeing you again. I can't believe you have me on after Kevin O'Leary doing the Elon Musk, President Trump fight of the day.
We're as Trump would say, we're flexible here, right?
Yes, you are. That's the Hill. That's NewsNation. It's great to be on.
Thanks.
Probably in the long run, though, that attack that the Ukrainians pulled off against the Russian strategic bomber fleet over the weekend will have a more long-term effect than what we saw in the headlines today with Mr. Musk getting a little out of control. But nonetheless, hey man, that was David and Goliath. Really, what we saw there. Think about surprise attacks. Think about the Trojan horse. Think about Pearl Harbor. Think about September 11th. Think about the Tet Offensive in Vietnam. Think about October 7th. What we saw there was a new era of warfare, and it was the most daring and successful attack that I'm kind of a geek, and I read a lot of military history, and I was in the Army a long, long time. What we saw there was something that was transformational. We have all the information we need now, Blake. This is a huge problem. The United States military, the United States itself is at extreme risk right now.
So extreme risk. You think Driscoll, who's the head of the Army there, is onto something. And I guess the worry is if there's just a piece of land anywhere and you get a drone onto it and send it up and into the homeland, is that the quote-unquote extreme risk as you see it?
Blake, remember New Jersey in the new year where all these unidentified drones were flying around? A lot of that, just think about that. But we also have our strategic bases in the United States. There are numerous examples of unidentified drones flying overhead, particularly big report about Langley Air Force Base in Virginia that we don't know. So think about this, Blake. Think about a seeming cargo ship going along the east coast of the United States or the west coast of the United States. Maybe it's Iranian, maybe it's Chinese, maybe it's Venezuelan. And all of a sudden, drones come popping out of that thing and can very easily access U.S. bases, because the horrible situation right now is we're not effectively defending our bases. It's a really, really tough problem. I don't want to minimize it. Secretary Driscoll, Army Secretary, brilliant guy, war fighter, businessman. He knows, and him speaking honestly about it, I think is really, really important, and I admire his courage.
Would the Golden Dome, the concept that President Trump and the Pentagon and the military are trying to put together, would that counteract sort of this new era or this new worry?
Extremely helpful, president and his team with Golden Dome. Some people kind of poo-poo it, but remember, a lot of people disregarded President Reagan's idea of Star Wars that they talked about. Well, we're in a different era now with technology. The Golden Dome will be a critical component, and part of that is kind of what we could talk close in, near range, counter UAS, counter unmanned or uncrewed aerial systems like the Ukrainians used to attack the Russians over the weekend. There's a component of Golden Dome that will be very effective in protecting the United States and our bases, and just not our bases, but think about our key infrastructure. Think about electrical plants, think about nuclear plants, places like that. But Golden Dome's a critical part of that.
So as I sit here and talk to you, and we're talking about drones and Golden Dome and these surprise elements and things that couldn't have been technologically capable even a decade ago. What is the future of the Air Force? What is the future of the military as you see it in the future decades to come?
There you go, Blake, taking it to the next dimension. And that's really the important question we need to ask. Think about an F-35. It's the best aircraft in the world. It costs about $200 million a piece. Over the weekend, the Ukrainians, without an air force of any substantial, capability, they have some F-16s that fly defensive, but they used drones that are just thousands of dollars a piece. Think about the $200 million F-35 that could not access that target and deliver ordnance on it. The Ukrainians did it with these quadcopter drones that you can literally buy at Best Buy. And they weaponized those and destroyed up to almost a half of the strategic bomber fleet of the Russian Air Force, which is their nuclear deterrent. It's the most amazing attack that has happened probably since World War II with the British Special Air Service.
Chris Miller, appreciate the perspective, sir. Knows this inside and out with us tonight here on the Hill. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me, Blake.
Of course. Talk soon. All right. Still to come tonight. here on the Hill. That big story of the day. Trump and Musk. In the initial stages, what's going on here going forward? But it really hasn't stopped President Trump from talking about and instituting other policies. So what is the president trying to do here going forward when the Hill returns?
NewsNation tonight.
Let's get after it.
Another special 2-hour edition of Cuomo, the SBA's Kelly Loeffler, Congressman Ro Khanna, Andrew Yang, and more. A special 2-hour edition of Cuomo, tonight at 8, 7 Central, only on NewsNation.
All right, welcome back here to the Hill on NewsNation. The feud, the tiff, the speed bump, whatever you want to call it, continuing between President Trump and Elon Musk. Now, within the past few minutes here, the White House weighing in. The press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, issuing the following statement, and here it is. This is an unfortunate episode from Elon, who is unhappy with the One Big Beautiful Bill because it does not include the policies he wanted. The president is focused on passing this historic piece of legislation and making our country great again, end quote. That from Caroline Leavitt. Now, let's just take a step back here for the last 24 hours or so, because we started the show last night talking about President Trump's 3 challenges at the time, right? Putin, Xi, and Musk, all varying, all different. And then what happened after we signed off last night? These 3 headlines. Trump orders an investigation into Joe Biden's administration, the alleged cover-up of his predecessor's declining cognitive ability, and the subsequent use of the auto pen. Then, citing national security concerns, the president implements a new travel ban for foreigners coming in from 19 countries all over the globe. You see them there on the map. And then he also announced policy as it relates to Harvard, with a presidential proclamation banning students from even entering the U.S. to study at the elite university. All of those coming within a matter of hours last night, and all 3 issues he addressed today.
I know some of the people that use that auto pen, and those are not the people that had the same ideology as Joe Biden. These were radical left lunatics that used that, and they didn't get elected. We want to have foreign students, but we want them to be checked. We don't want to have other bad people coming into our country, but using the word bad, I'm being nice.
Now, all of these, you might feel, are legitimate conversations, legitimate, involving national security in their own very unique ways. But all 3, the investigation into the former president, the travel ban, and the newest restrictions on Harvard, also came as the president was also facing big questions about 3 of the biggest players on the planet. So was all this a game of squirrel, look here, don't look there, trying to change the narrative before anyone had any sort of idea of what would come today? And who controls the narrative going forward? I said to the team, I want the best in the business today to break this all down. Look who we have. Niall Stanage, White House columnist for The Hill. Michael Schnell, congressional reporter for The Hill. Julia Manchester, she is the national political reporter for The Hill. And Joe Khalil, NewsNation Washington correspondent. My team knows I am very demanding, I am very needy, but my wish did come true. So thank you all for being here. The point is, Donald Trump is a master, Julia, of changing the narrative, right? The Musk stuff started to come out last night, and then we went home, and what did we see? All of these issues come out, all legitimate, all varying, all tying into national security. But then comes today, and Musk just went poof to everything. Right. And you got to wonder who sort of controls the narrative here going forward.
Well, and Democrats were saying last night that the travel ban, for example, that was a part of a distraction. They were saying from some of the backlash that this big, beautiful bill has been getting. But today, of course, it's, gone back to that back and forth. Michael pointed out in the green room that it's ironic that you have Elon Musk and Donald Trump both in their own ways controlling the narrative on their own social media platforms, going back and forth on this. And, Michael was just on Capitol Hill, but, it's amazing how lawmakers were about to go home and now they're being chased down, Republicans, and being asked about this. I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
She's doing my job for me. She's teeing you up right there.
I mean, look, Republicans have been saying for weeks now they want to get this thing done by July 4th. That's less than a month away, and today, instead of focusing on what changes need to be made or deliberations about the bill, we're talking about Elon Musk. Any way you slice it, this is not helpful for Republicans. Republicans. For deficit hawks, it sort of takes a little bit of wind out of their sails in terms of their argument that this adds to the deficit because there's so much criticism of how Elon Musk is handling it. It's not good showing Republicans divided in this way. And at the end of the day, it's a distraction from their goal, which again, cannot be understated. It's less than a month away.
Elon Musk has a massive megaphone, 220 million followers on X, a platform that he owns. The consequence isn't only on the building behind us, it's his capacity to get criticism and sometimes pretty lurid speculation of Trump right into the bloodstream of that online right, those younger, more digitally focused conservatives who have been a part of the Trump coalition, but who Elon Musk holds real sway over.
As Joe, as we were sort of coming on air, there was some news that you cover up on the Hill, which was James Comer, the top Republican on the House Oversight Committee, sent the first letter out to Dr. Kevin O'Connor, the White House doctor during Joe Biden's tenure. And again, look, legitimate, and this is the very start of this. And there's going to be real consequences and real answers and a lot to talk to on this. Probably not coincidental, though, that it came out right now.
Look, and on most days, this would be huge news.
Huge.
It wasn't
That
a letter, but
Trump talked to Xi Jinping today.
Right. There was a lot going on. It was a subpoena. And so obviously you would cover that in a big way, except for today. I think the point that you're making is a good one. I'll let people behind the curtain. This morning, we woke up and thought, okay, Tuesday we covered Elon. Wednesday we covered Elon. Today, let's focus more on the substance of the bill. And by 12:30, game plan out the window, because you couldn't ignore it. It was just too big. And Michael Schnell made a good point. It's an evergreen statement, but I'll build on it here. To the extent that now you're forcing senators to choose a team, they're going to choose Donald Trump. That's just going to be the bottom line. That's it. Maybe Rand Paul is an exception, but even Ron Johnson, I talked to him this morning, he was the guy saying all week, and again today, Elon is right about the spending issues in the bill. But again, if you're going to force Johnson to choose a team, he's going to defer to President Trump here. And so they're going to have to work out the issues in the bill. But this is, if you're leadership and people trying to pass the bill, just a big distraction that they want to get over.
Is there real fear on the Republican side of the aisle now that this is happening? What happens if they don't sort of move in Musk's direction? Musk basically said today, he said today that the reason Trump is president is because of him, meaning, money in elections.
I think that there's certainly maybe some concern there, but we can't forget that Musk poured quite a bit of money into those special Wisconsin Supreme Court races earlier this year, and that was a giant failure. But like Niall said, he has a massive megaphone. He has that platform. He's very much in touch with much of the base, particularly some of these very fiscally conservative Republican voters. So that's one thing to note. But I have to also point out, it's amazing, speaking of Republicans in disarray, just yesterday we were talking about how Karine Jean-Pierre was leaving the Democratic Party, how much, the debate over President Biden's health. We're no longer talking about that. We're not talking about even the subpoena of Comer. We're talking about this. It's Republicans.
But you know what? But can I say? So let's say you're John Cornyn, who has an election coming up. If you say you can have $50 million in a check from Elon Musk tomorrow, or a Trump tweet endorsement, I don't think he's taking the money, to be quite honest. I mean, that's...
But I mean, I take that point and I agree with that point. But what about when he holds town halls and there are, 50 or 100 people who think that Elon Musk is the king of the universe, who are asking those Musk questions? Does that remain the same then?
I'll give you the last word here.
Republicans are not concerned that the bill does not pass because of Musk's criticism. Phone lines on Capitol Hill are not ringing despite Musk telling Americans to call their lawmakers. And Republicans who I've spoken to are not concerned that the billionaire Musk may not put his money towards Republicans. In fact, instead of being nervous about any of that, they're criticizing the billionaire for how he's handled, his public criticism of the bill. Number of House conservatives saying, we agree with what you're saying, but you should have said it earlier and helped us. And they're not happy with how he's handling this public feud with Trump.
These are busy folks. It's only going to get busier. Niall, Michael, Julia, Joe, thank you all. Appreciate it. Still to come tonight here on the Hill. So this is the time I do my take, right? Like I try to give you a view into what I'm thinking or things that I see. And last night I was in the middle of my take, and what happened? The President of the United States came on live, and some of you reached out to me and said, Blake, I actually kind of wanted you to finish the thing. So I will on the other side of the break. And still to come here on NewsNation, Elizabeth Vargas reports right after us. She will be bringing you the very latest from the Sean Diddy Combs trial, including the moment the judge threatened to bar him from court. That's coming up 7 o'clock Eastern. My take, though, I'll finish it this time, I promise you. Other side. All right, so this is the part of the show where I give you my take, an angle on something in the news that I may have caught, wanted to show you. It might be sort of in the corners, right? Tell you what's going on. Last night, that was the case as usual before I was interrupted by the commander-in-chief. President Trump speaking from the South Lawn is obviously what he has to say is more important than what I have to say. So I wanted to bring back what I was going to tell you last night. Some of you asked for it. Amazon, Meta, you know the names. Two of the biggest companies in this country over the last 2 decades or so. There are 2 headlines in the last 48 hours or so that caught my attention, and they have nothing to do with your digital shopping cart or your social media. Amazon announcing this week that it's investing $10 billion in North Carolina to expand its AI infrastructure, forecasting about 500 new jobs in the Tar Heel state. And that follows a big move from Meta, who's now updating its status in Illinois. Meta announcing they've inked a massive nuclear energy deal with Constellation Energy. The common theme here, both tech giants building out their infrastructure for artificial intelligence. And you know who's also paying attention from the sidelines? Barack Obama, the former president, posting about AI, quote, "Now's the time for public discussions about how to maximize the benefits and limit the harms of this new powerful technology." Now, just a few days ago, the CEO of Anthropic, which is a booming player in the AI space, warned of a white-collar wipeout, predicting that AI would eliminate the need for 50% of entry-level office jobs. Will that happen? Who knows? It kind of feels right now like we're in the late 90s remember when the internet just started to pop up and we were all trying to figure out what was the future going to be there. But here's what we do know. For now, Amazon and Meta announce a big economic boost that at the very least will lead to new investments and new jobs, and I would add, here at home. That's my take tonight. I thank you for watching. I'm Blake Burman. See you tomorrow.